The grand prize goes to the team T Cubed from the University of Moratuwa in Sri Lanka.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Divya Bandara, moderator for today's event. I warmly welcome all of you to the first session of 5 minutes video clip contest. The IEEE Signal Processing Society is the first ever technological society initiated in the University of Moratuwa under the IEEE. The mission of IEEE Signal Processing Society is to advance and share state-of-the-art scientific information and resources. It also shares a common goal of supporting the global mission of fostering technological innovation and excellence for the benefit of humanity. As the IEEE Signal Processing Society, we aspire to increase the enthusiasm about signal processing among Sri Lankan undergraduates. Therefore, we have taken the initiative to organize a 5-minute video clip contest where teams get an opportunity to explore cutting-edge signal processing concepts. Furthermore, to promote STEM education through the native languages, the competition is open for submissions from all 3 languages, Sinhala, Tamil, and English. During this session, we intend to share the experience of not just 1, 2 global champion teams. Respective teams, T-Cube and DigitX, have won the IEEE Signal Processing Cup 2021 and IEEE ICAS Challenge 2021. They have competed in these competitions and have taken our country's name to the international stage. And today, they will be sharing their experience with you with the hope one day you will be able to bring glory to Sri Lanka just like them. Before experience sharing, I would like to invite Mr. Kavisha Yalagama to explain about 5-minute video clip contest. Over to you, Kavisha Yalagama.
Hello, I think you can see me and hear me.
Yeah, you're audible, Kavisha.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. Today's session is done in conjunction with our 5-minute video clip competition. Like Dumudu mentioned, this competition is open for submission from any of the 3 languages, Sinhala, Tamil, or English. We also have dedicated awards for each language category. Our intention in doing this was to encourage the knowledge dissemination in 3 languages in Sri Lanka. This is also one of our goals in our society. We hope you also collaborate with us in achieving this goal. What you stand to gain from this competition is the opportunity to practice to compete in a global scale competition, so that you may also compete next year and emerge victorious like the speakers we have here today. And we hope you gain the maximum out of them in today's session. One of the aforementioned global scale competitions is the 5-minute video clip contest. This is hosted by the IEEE Signal Processing Society, which has been the world's premier professional society for signal processing scientists and professionals since 1948. In addition to the already amazing prize money, which is USD $5,000, and the first runners up and the second runners up also get a huge amount. You will also get the opportunity to say virtually to anyone, anywhere in the world, that you mean business by just one sentence, that is, I won the Signal Processing Cup. You can speak about any topic from any field in signal processing, and our sponsor LSEC has offered us to do a session on financial signal processing to the participants. So anyone interested in doing a video in financial signal processing, or want to research a field with real industrial applications, please do stay in touch with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Kavisha. Now it is time to recognize our sponsor. The sponsor for 5 minutes video clip competition is the London Stock Exchange Group. Next, move on to our first team. It is time to introduce Team DigitX, who won the challenge on self-awareness heterogeneous multi-robot systems at the International Conference on Autonomous Systems 2021. Members of the team are as follows: Ms. Hasindri Vatawana, Ms. Vidushika Rasanji, Ms. Dilmi Caldera, Mr. Chamudita Janga, Mr. Niroshan Sivapuran, Mr. Avishka Sandeepa, Mr. Nushan Vitarana, Mr. Yasod Ginige, Mr. Rahal Pereira, and Mr. Oshan Jayawardhan. And the team was supervised by the senior lecturer at the Department of Electronic and Telecommunication Engineering, Dr. Chamire Edusuriya. Now, I would like to invite team members to share their experiences.
Thank you, Dumido. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. So, a very good evening to everyone. We are Team DigitX from University of Mortua, who won the ICAS 2021 challenge. There were 10 undergraduates in our team. Let me brief our talks so that you can get what we have done and what are the approaches we used. So, the challenge was to detect abnormalities in autonomous vehicle navigation. What is an abnormality? Suppose a pedestrian jumps in front of a moving vehicle. So that is an abnormal scenario which is expected to be identified in our solution. We were given the scenario that these two vehicles, that means this ICAP 1 and ICAP 2, are moving in different ways, and the task was to determine whether there are any confusion or abnormalities in their movements. So the only normal scenario was ICAP 1, ICAP 2 following the ICAP 1 without any confusion or any disturbances. All the other scenarios like ICAP as an abnormality. The data we provided are image data from four cameras mounted on these two vehicles, IMU data and LiDAR data of both vehicles. Here, IMU means inertia measurement unit, is a sensor which provides data like linear acceleration and angular velocity of an object that the sensor is mounted. LiDAR sensor gives us a raw 3D plot of the environment, so we can have a sense of obstacles or objects nearby. So, like you are now, this is the situation we were after reading the task. And the main problem we had was there was only 1 month left to complete our task. Let's move on how we approach our task. First, what we did was divide the task into subtasks and analyze them to find the best approach to solve them. So our subtasks were image data analysis, IMU data analysis, and LiDAR data analysis. And we tried to build a model for each to detect abnormality. So these are three different subtasks, three separate subtasks, like three separate boxes. We work on them separately. What our approach was, so when we consider the image data, first we consider image data, they can be used to detect external abnormalities like obstacle detection mostly. What our approach was, by using three previous frames of a particular camera, we predict the next frame. Then we compare this predicted frame with the actual frame and calculate the deviation. We assume that there should be a larger deviation when there is an abnormal situation. For as an example, say sudden obstacle detection can't be predicted using previous frames because the obstacle is not there in the previous frames. So the predicted frame has a larger error there. And by selecting a proper threshold, we identify the abnormalities in this image model. To do that, there were three main parts in our model, which are convolution encoder decoder network, a generator network, and a discriminator network. Going on to the next box, which is IMU data. IMU data can be used to detect internal abnormalities like sudden accelerations, sharp turns, like that. Using the same strategy, we use three previous IMU data vectors to predict the next vector and compare it with the actual one. If there is an abnormality, there should be a higher error gain. So we built an autoencoder model to detect instant abnormalities like sudden accelerations, sudden sharp turns. Likewise, there can be those things. So those are abnormalities. We detect as abnormalities. And LSTM forecaster model to detect transitional abnormalities like high speeds. Even though there isn't a sudden accelerations, gradual acceleration will lead to higher speed of a vehicle. So that's another abnormality which can be detected using a LSTM forecaster model. So we built separate model, and in the next box, we built a separate model for LiDAR data. And what our approach was, when the LiDAR data plots are getting closer to the ICAPs, we detect it as an abnormal scenario. To summarize what I have mentioned, when you're given a problem with a limited time, you should break down it to sub-problems. These sub-problems might have slight correlation in between them, but mostly they are separate boxes. Then solve these problems with your best approach, and finally combine these solutions to build your final solution. In our case, it is like an operation, because at least one model detects a particular scenario as an abnormal. So the final result should be abnormal. So it's like an OR gate. So this is how we separate our task, or divide our task into subtasks and approach it. So next, Niroshan will discuss about our team management. Niroshan.
Thank you, Yasod. So when we start, as Yasod mentioned, when we started working on this competition, we had only less than a month to prepare, and we had our semester 4 and semester 3 exams going on. So we had limited time to work on this competition. We had our very first meeting as soon as we registered for the competition. In this meeting, we did some brainstorming session to figure out how we can divide the work among us. And we figured out that we had to develop 3 different models using the 3 data types Yashod mentioned. Image data, IMU sensor data, and the LiDAR data. So we divided our team into 3 groups to design separate models for each data type. After the common brainstorming session, this is how each group planned their work. First week, we extracted the data and did some data analysis. And we conducted brainstorming session within the group to identify the best approach to the problem. And then we referred to some research articles. The second week, we started developing the models. In the third week, we started debugging. The fourth week, we finalized the models and combined the results. Every week, we had a meeting with other group members to update each other groups about the work we did within the week. And we had another meeting with the seniors and the lecturer to clarify our doubts. Because of this, we were able to make progress every week. And finally, on the day before the competition, we combined all our results of the models we created and included them in the final presentation. Next, Avishkar will explain you how we did our presentation.
Thank you, Niroshan. As you know, first impression is the most important thing while presenting. Once you share your presentation, the audience should be able to go through it easily. In this slide, we show that how to impress your audience and present your idea clearly and easily. First of all, do not try to put all unnecessary things, descriptions, and details in your slides. You must present your whole idea while showing the overall picture through your presentation. Try to use images, illustrations, infographics, and short videos to express your idea than words. Always try to add details in short and sweet manner if it is required. If anyone worried about illustrations and images that fit to your presentation, there are so many free websites that you can find them, such as freepik.com. As the next slide shows, when choosing colors for your presentation, try to use complementary colors which help you to highlight important things easily. Other than that, selected fonts must be clear and visible to the audience. Use of various types of fonts, styles, and font sizes to express the importance of the content by using uppercase fonts. Highlight them as bold. While you are adding transitions for better visualization, remind yourself to limit the number of transitions, since too many transitions can make your presentation nonsense. In the next slide, you can see the short video clip that we used to present our overall idea at the live competition. As you can see, anyone who looks at this can get an idea of our structure quickly and clearly. Additional video clips extend the explanation process. For the arrows moving part, you can use the Miro online whiteboard tool for visualization. The overall conceptual architecture is shown in the video. After presenting this slide, we move deep into detail. Now, anyone has an idea about what we have done without even knowing the technical terms. There are several platforms to create presentations, such as PowerPoint, Google Slides, Canva, Beautiful.ai, and etc. You can choose one of them as you wish. With a collaboration of team, I suggest using Google Slides since it is easy to handle. Final and the most important thing is, after completing the creation process of your presentation, anyone who knows the tips of the tool easily must clean and format your presentation in order before presenting. Hasindri will explain you to how to present. Hasindri.
Yes, thank you, Avishkar. So now that you know how to approach a problem, solve it successfully, and make a wonderful presentation out of it, I will explain you and discuss with you how can you present this presentation to a live audience effectively. I will walk you through 3 most key important steps that you need to follow in order to deliver an effective live presentation. The first is that You need to pick parts of your story that needs to be told. Basically, you need to frame your story, the behind the scenes of your story, the concepts and the implementation. And there are a few factors that you need to consider while you're trying to pick which parts to tell to the audience. The first and the most important thing is the audience itself. You should not overestimate or underestimate the knowledge of your audience. If I talk in the context of these international competitions and conferences like the one we participated, the audience consists of people who are already aware of the context of the problem that you are trying to solve. They know the situation which led you to solve that problem. Therefore, if you spend too much time trying to explain the groundwork, starting everything from scratch, it might be an overkill and you might be wasting your time. And the second important fact is the time. Basically, you're given a very limited amount of precious time, around 20 to 30 minutes. And within those 20 to 30 minutes, you're expected to go from your approach to the concept to implementation to your model architecture and to your model accuracies and results. So you need to pick exactly what you're going to say. Otherwise, you might just end up addressing the problem whole 30 minutes. And remember that they do not expect you to take too much time trying to introduce the problem. What they want from you is how you solve that problem. Therefore, try to explain your solution, how you approached it. What they want to know is your solution and the specifics about it. And also, you're not expected to go broader, explain the entire broad spectrum. Instead, take your time, the valuable time that you're given, to go deeper, dig deeper into your own solution and present the specific of your model, your solution. Like Yashod said in the beginning, you can start from an overall big picture and stepwise go into the parts of your model architecture and explain them precisely. With that, you will be easily able to convince the audience that your solution is a working solution. The next key step is planning the delivery. So now that you have picked what you are going to say and planned a flow or order of it, you need to now plan the delivery of it. And there are three main ways that people use to communicate their contents or present their contents to an audience. First is reading off a script. Second is keeping some reference bullet points. And third is memorizing each and every word. So if you read your entire presentation of a script, the audience will feel it. They will feel the distance. So you're risking their engagement with your presentation. And it might be disadvantageous for you. And it is okay to remember and memorize each and every word of your presentation, but then you need to practice a lot more harder to have a natural flow of words. Otherwise, if you miss a line in the middle and get stuck at that point and you panic, then you're not going to be able to deliver it effectively. So the most recommended way I would say is to have few reference bullet points. You can have few note cards by your side, or you can add these bullet points to your slides. And while you're doing the presentation, while you're going through the slides, you can map each of these bullet points to the content that you want to deliver. And the next important fact is that between two bullet points, you need to have a good and a smooth transition that can maintain the flow of your presentation. And also, one most important fact is having a good pace for your talking. We should remember that we are presenting to a global audience. There can be people who are not necessarily familiar with our accent. Therefore, we need to pace ourselves while presenting. Other than these, having clean vocal variations, good vocabulary, and showing that you are well prepared and less nervous will add additional advantages to your presentation, and the audience will be more engaged with you. So more planning and practicing means you are very less nervous during the actual presentation, and you can radiate your confidence. When you sound confident, it is very easy for you to get your point across. So the last step is time management. It is a very important step. And like I said in the beginning, your audience already knows what's and whys of your presentation. So don't waste time trying to introduce the problem. An effective speaker would spend only few seconds trying to introduce the problem, and he would spend more time trying to organize their concept of the solution. Therefore, make sure that you use less time for the introduction and more time for the solution. So with that, our presentation comes to an end. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see your amazing teamwork and presentations in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Team DigitX, for your valuable insights and advice. I think members of the audience is motivated to participate in international competitions by your story. So now I would like to invite the supervisor of ICAS Challenge winning team, Dr. Chamir Edusuriya, to share his thoughts on the competition and preparation.
Thank you very much, Dumit. So probably you could see me, and yeah, so good evening to everyone. And so the first, yeah, so the Hasindri and the students actually make a very good presentation on the basically the initial work and the time management and the work management and all the aspects we have incorporated into preparing this competition. So basically the main challenge we had is the limited time. Actually, we had around 1 month of time, and the other thing was the students were in the middle of exam. So as a supervisor, my duty was to manage their workload and provide the necessary solutions, and also the point these certain research papers and guide them properly. So it was a challenge for my side as well, because I could not force them to work on this because there are exams as well. So I had to have the management. On the other hand, the other important aspect I would like to highlight is that, so in this challenge, even though we have around 1 month time, in 2020, actually, in the Signal Processing Cup, the University of Moratuwa was the first runner-up team, and that challenge was also similar to this one. So we had already gathered certain knowledge. So basically, we have preserved that knowledge, and so with that knowledge, we did not start from the zero. So actually, while participating in this competition, so these problems are challenging, and winning is very good, but in addition to winning, so you could gather very good essential knowledge and state-of-the-art knowledge and techniques, and you could listen to these things if you and some of the webinars presented by the organizers. So that is very important. So, and this knowledge could be transferred to the then the junior students, and so based on that, year and year we could develop our knowledge. And so that is the other aspect I would like to highlight. And on the other hand, actually, Hasindri mentioned basically the certain actually guidelines I have, or the advices I have mentioned as well, that in an international competition, so we need to be familiar that the audience is diverse. So diverse means that the specifically speaking speed, and also the how we going to present. So, and also our accent may not be familiar for the native speaker sometimes. So we need to maintain a certain pace so that our expression is clear to them, and also in a presentation we need to use visual aids effectively, so that these challenging problems could be explained in a certain manner, so that the non-expert also could understand. I do not mean the judging panel, but there could be some other participants. So if you go for a conference as well, then so it should be in the middle level, some kind of thing. It's a management of time and other things. The other important aspect is how we develop our presentation coherently, highlight the most important facts, and so those things have been mentioned actually, the students. So I just did a certain addition to that, and so Domingo, I am fine. Yeah, but if the students have any questions, and I would like to provide my experience, and Dr. Pratap also there. I think after the team TQ presentation, I think he would share his experience. And Tarindu, over to you. Sorry, Dumidu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Chamita Edusuriya, for sharing essential insights and thoughts with us. It is time to introduce Team TQ, who won the Signal Processing Cup 2021 at the IEEE International Conference on Acoustics, Speech, and Signal Processing Cup. Signal Processing. Remember?
Okay, so I think I missed Dumidu's introduction. So thank you, Dumidu, for inviting our team as well. So we are Team T-Cube and our supervisor is Dr. Pratap Singh Dhanwansa. And this is our team, Tarindu, Haridu, again, Tarindu, Amashi, myself, Kamudita, Kitmini, and Tishanta. So through this presentation, we would like to share some insights that we gain in terms of presentation skills as well as managing a team. So first, let's just look at some background information about this whole SPCUP and everything. The Signal Processing Cup is held annually in conjunction with the ICAS, that is the International Conference on Acoustics and Signal Processing. So it's organized by the IEEE Signal Processing Society. And through this competition, this organization encourages participants to solve real-world problems through signal processing. So over the years, a lot of countries have won this competition, and last year we were the second, and this year we were able to gain championship. Okay, so in the previous years, in the Signal Processing Cup, there were different challenges. So this was on abnormal detection in autonomous systems, another challenge. So in this year's task, what we were focused was working on wireless communication. So if I give a small introduction, so this is something called an intelligent reflecting surface. So I mean, it's a simple thing. So it's a surface which is composed of things called metamaterials that can be manually controlled. So our goal is to direct the signal to the recipient so that we can increase the coverage. So basically, researchers believe that this could be a key enabling thing in 6G communication. So our problem was mainly revolved around this concept. So it was relatively new to us, the whole concept of this intelligent reflecting surface. However, with the support of the team members, we were able to grab what it means and proceed forward. So it was actually 100% virtual collaboration with everyone. And it was very important that we shared our progress with each other. So this is just some statistics about our team calls and everything. So it was very fun at times, having everyone in calls and collaborating with each other. Yes, so just we are providing this as an insight for you. So it doesn't matter whether it's virtual or physical. So if you want to go towards a particular goal with the right team, you can do it. So we actually organized a lot from the beginning. That means having progress review meetings, planning about the deadlines and everything, and sharing information with each other. So these are some of the tools that were helpful to us. Yes, and we use Microsoft Teams for calls and everything. So there were times at which we had calls for around 16 hours from the morning, and we brainstormed certain stuff. Okay, so when sharing our progress effectively with our supervisor, we followed a simple mechanism. So we actually summarized our progress into several slides, and we went through it effectively. So we always wanted to value our supervisor's time as well. So through this method, every week we summarized our progress into some set of slides. So so based on the slides, we got a lot of insights to move forward in the correct direction. So this is just a suggestion to you as well. So if you're gaining some advice from a supervisor, maybe you can summarize your work and present it effectively. Okay. So Tarindu will talk about how we approach the whole presentation and what sort of things that we should pay attention to. So Tarindu, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Amitai. So I'll be briefly talking about the competition and the presentation. Basically, the common information and the most general advices that we wanted to give was already highlighted, like not cramming in too much information to one slide and those types of things. It was already highlighted, so I'll be more specific and try to tell what wasn't repeated. So the first one is that we had only 10 minutes. So it was not even 20 or 30 minutes, it was 10 minutes. They had a strict rule. And so the challenge was a bit harder. And since the domain is not very commonly known, it's not a case of building a model, it's more a case of giving an algorithm. So our task was unique for us in that sense, because we were sort of used to building models, but we were not used to giving an algorithmic solution with a model and with a performance. So it was especially hard for us to condense everything down effectively into 10 minutes, but we managed to successfully do it. And the audience was a panel of judges, highly esteemed judges. So there was no playing around. You couldn't like do claims that were unsupported, and they had a Viva also, like an open Viva session. So where they asked questions about the video. So our presentation was pre-recorded, but after the presentation, they had a round of questions, and we had to defend our solution. So that was the Q&A part, and it was virtually broadcasted in the ICAS conference. So Ramitai, let's go on to what we have to say. That this message is like pretty common. I think we also got this from Dr. Pratap Singh, like you can't underestimate the intelligence, because we knew that field expertise was there in the audience, but then again, we can't just gloss over completely. We have to focus on certain aspects that we feel that highlight our innovativeness and our novelty. So there's a fine balance that you have to strike, and it depends on the competition and the task, and you could get more advice on how to strike that balance with the supervisor. And we also did it many times, many revisions, finalizing the presentation and stuff. So this is like the core message: know your audience and deliver accordingly. And in the next slide, we will go on to find the basic structure. So this was also suggested by our supervisor, like first you have to create some intrigue, like you have to show, okay, this is what we did. So what we, in our presentation, it's in YouTube, like you can view the full 10-minute presentation. What we did was first we showed, okay, this from an animation, this is what we are doing, and it can be done in a simple device, and this is our result. So the first 2 minutes of our presentation was the showing of what can be done. And then after we create the whole intrigue, we have to justify it. And you have to then go to a flow and say, these are the, so what we did was after the problem statement, then go to the solution. And in that solution, without going into every detail of the problem, we told what challenges we faced and how we overcame those challenges. So we divided the task into 2 parts, estimating the channel, and then after modeling the channel, how do we optimize the configuration? So we broadly divided our challenge, and one by one, like it's like ticking a box, we showed how we solved the problem. And in our presentation also, once we are telling the, okay, we are going to solve the, like configure the channel or model the channel. After that's done, then we return to this slide, and it's like ticking off the box. So it was a very back and forth between the explanation from the voice and the visual component. So that's also pretty important, and we'll highlight it later also. And after like ticking all the boxes, okay, these are the challenges that we faced and this is how we solved it, you have to pull everything together back and then highlight your strengths. You have to say why. It should be a recurring theme, but the underlying theme should be very, I would say, significantly shown in the conclusion. Highlight everything and bring it all to an end. So in our one, it was a simple our pitch or our solution was based on that our solution was simple yet effective, and it could be implemented in a simple hardware, and that our balance between computational complexity and the accuracy was optimum, or we didn't say optimum, was good. So that's another thing. You have to be careful with your words. We didn't claim anything that we couldn't prove. So we didn't say anything was best or anything was optimum. We just showed that our one was achieving good results, and that our striking of the balance was very good, even though, so we should, I should mention that going into the final round, we were ranked 3rd. So we had nothing to lose. And we played to our strengths, and our whole algorithm and idea and implementation, all the 3 components played a role. So it was a matter of communicating that to the judges and convincing them that our one was the striking of balance between the accuracy and the cost was good. So in the next slides, we'll just highlight what we wanted to say. So using animations to highlight your point was given. So I'll just go to a specific detail. So for instance, in the presentation, when the person is speaking, try to add something in the animation that flows on with the words. So when I'm saying configuration search, gradient descent, then you can see in our animation that part highlighted. So when you're speaking about some point, give a visual cue so that the listeners can focus their attention to that point, and use simple graphics. Don't do a lot, but do something which is very simple, and keep the notation simple, because we knew our audience, because linear algebra and those types of things, matrix manipulations, we knew that those types of things are known to the audience. So we didn't go to define everything. And these diagrams were given like that in the task description itself. So we didn't go to explain the diagram. We just used the diagram that they gave and added animations to show our solution. And if you could see, this was a bit cumbersome task to show the matrix simplification. So it was a very, I'm proud of my team for doing this. It took more than 2-3 days, I think, just to get the thing flowing in order. Like once we're explaining the how we manipulated the data, the matrix simplifications would happen. So those types of small things played an important role, I think, when you're convincing the audience that our method, this is what we did, without just saying we did this. We have to show what we did while we are speaking. So that's an important thing. And the next one slide will show how we approached our problem in a very professional sense. Like we have to be consistent. We have to, like, without choosing too much decorative stuff, like everything has to have a purpose. And if you are using, if you're presenting in a professional environment, like you have to be consistent. Your capitalizations, your underlines, every italic letter, every bold letter should have a purpose. And your fonts should be precise. Your there are like standard fonts that are used in professional writing. So you have to use those types of things. The specific details will again depend on the competition, and you can get advice from your mentors. But keep in mind that it's not like doing a presentation at school. You have to be professional with everything, and you have to use fonts consistently with scientific norms and with a purpose for everything. So for example, if you're using, I think people know this, for vectors and matrices, there's a special, not special, there's a standard way of writing them so that people know at a glance that, okay, this is not a scalar. So in the next slide, again, it's a small detail, like you have to tell acknowledge every part that you have borrowed. So you can't just say this is there in research. You have to say where you got it, and there's a standard way of citing them. Again, most of these tips I'm saying, but they were iterated and shown to us by our supervisor, Dr. Pratap Singh. So we are very thankful for it. And it's very important that other people also follow these types of practices, because then it shows that we are serious about our work. It's not just a part of the problem solving. When you are presenting it, we have to be very thorough with what we say. So for example, you can see in one of our slides, like when you are borrowing a model or when you're borrowing a mathematical expression that we are not deriving, we are using someone else's work, we have to cite his person's name, the publishing conference or the paper, and there's a standard format of doing that. So even though it's insignificant, like a small detail, most probably nobody will read it, but we have to do it anyway. And you have to make sure that everything is accurate. You can't just put stuff, because then in the Q&A session, they will definitely pinpoint that and ask, okay, why did you put that there? So you have to be 100%, 200% sure that everything you put is accurate and you can back them if they ask. And some tips, like play to your strengths. Like we are undergraduates, obviously, so even though we are competing in an open competition, sometimes there might be more people who are oriented towards computer science or more towards a certain discipline. So what we learn with what we have, we should be able to play to our strengths. And as Dr. Chamira mentioned previously, if we have some domain knowledge, we have to use that. And if we have some other seniors or lecturers who know some sort of thing, we have to play to our strengths. And what our strength was, and luckily for us, the simple model gave significantly good results. It was not the best, but it was up there. So our selling point was, okay, it's simple and the trade-off is okay. Even though it's simple, it achieves good results and it can be done in a smaller, like in a less expensive hardware. So we played to that strength, and you should highlight what you are going to say throughout the presentation. And it's nice to have some hardware evidence, like if you can model it and run it and show, okay, this runs in 60 milliseconds, as opposed to a complex model that takes, I don't know, 5 minutes to run. So you can't just claim things that you don't know. You can't say other teams will have complex models, but you can say that your solution runs in 60 milliseconds because you have done it. So you should play to your strengths and say, okay, our team performs at this level. And that was a point that they brought up in the Q&A Viva session. And we thought that it was an added advantages for us as well. And avoid anything that you can't back like you don't give unsupported claims. Be simple, be honest, and present your solution confidently. So other parts I think was highlighted before also. I think that's it. Yes, preparing for the Q&A. Well, it's a live session. So what we did was we thought from the perspective of the judges. Like we had some sessions where we just asked questions from each other in the team. Like other people asked questions from us, and we had a session with our mentor where the mentor, we presented our solution to our mentor, and Dr. Pratap Singh and Dr. They asked us for questions that they thought that might be asked. So that was very helpful, so that we could get a perspective of how a different person who is not engaged with the problem 24/7 would feel, and what points that we need to focus on. So we had some sort of an idea what questions might be asked, but it was mostly on the spot thinking. So you have to practice a bit. You can't even write anything down because everything is on the spot. So it's good to have some practice, but if you were honestly engaged with the competition and you're confident and you had some mock sessions of practicing for the Q&A, it's okay. And if anything that comes up that you don't know, say that you don't know, be honest, it's okay. And you can acknowledge that you can look into it, or that was not an area that we explored. You have to somehow acknowledge, you have to be honest, forthcoming, and again you have to show that you're not completely oblivious to the solutions, that you just didn't explore that part. So that's a tip that we got from our supervisors. And I think one question we said that, like they asked why we used a specific tanh, like hyperbolic tangent function instead of some other mapping function. So we said that it was empirically obvious to us that it worked pretty well. So we didn't go to explore other areas, other mapping functions, but we acknowledge that that is a point that could be explored further. So like that, if you have to answer a question that you honestly didn't explore, you have to say that you didn't explore it. But if you got good results from it, you have to say we got empirically good results from that approach. So those are some important tips that I wanted to highlight very specifically to our task. And the more general information, like preparing your slides in a very coherent way, not using too much crammed into one slide, planning your slides. If the general rule is like 1 slide per minute, like if you have 10 minutes, don't go beyond 12, 13 slides, and practice for the presentation. And if you're like if you have done genuinely good work in your task, then you have confidence that you have done something. So project that confidence and you'll be fine with any presentation. So that's what I had to say. And I'm happy to like pass on any experience. Like if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Yes, that's it, Ramit.
Yes, also one of our team members will share the presentation link of us on YouTube. So just refer to it if you need some, yes, to get an idea.
Yes, so thank you Team TCube for sharing valuable insights on how to address the problem as well as communicating the solution to the audience. Now I would like to welcome the supervisor of the Team TCube, Dr. Pratap, Senior Lecturer at Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, Dr. Pratap Singh Dharmansha, to share his thoughts on competition and road to championship.
Hey guys, how are you? Can you hear me there?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for inviting me for this important session. Actually, thanks for the Signal Processing Society Sri Lankan chapter, I suppose. Now I have a hard task in front of me because all the things have been exhaustively explained by the previous speakers. It's hardly possible to find some small things, but let me do a cherry picking business and pick up a few points actually. Now, this competition wise, personally, I don't believe in competition as a person. I don't believe in competition. Education is not a competition. It's enrichment of your soul and your body in a way, actually your mind in particular. But in case sometimes in the world, like there should be a measurement. Sometimes people have to measure. Sometimes people have to grade you. Like they arrange people or their task in some sort of order actually. So because of that, competition happened. But be that as it may, now in particularly this competition actually. So the student explained completely what I used to discuss with them with respect to presentation and how to approach. Like a fine thing that I want to stress here is basically throughout the process, if you can remember, I put a special emphasis on the fact that you have to pay attention to details actually. That's a very important thing actually. Somehow that it was not stressed here, or probably they must have told it in another language. I'm sorry. So this point is very important actually as a professional engineer one day, or when you're particularly when you're talking to an audience. In particular, the audience consists of people who are expert in the area. So you can't go and mess up with them. That's a dangerous thing actually. So on the other hand, as one of the members said clearly, I mean, you can't underestimate their intelligence and overestimate their knowledge. So there can be some people who do not know in a particular area, but they have logic. So if you say something illogical, and they might understand it's like offensive. So because of that, actually, as a difficult task in front of anybody who's going to do a presentation to a certain audience with mixed expectations and stuff like that, Because of that, actually, you have to pay attention to detail. Actually, whenever you say something, whenever you put a word, a phrase, an equation, a picture, you are the person who put, so you have to take the responsibility. So you want to rationalize why you have done it. And on the other hand, actually, it should be consistent, actually. So it should support the flow. And even from selection of color, as far as I can remember, I was worried about selection of color, the contrasting colors, the fonts, the equations in particular, because if you put too many equations, like you don't show that you are very good at mathematics or something, but equations, they don't mean anything, actually, honestly speaking. Equations show, in particular, balance between 2 or 3 or multiple physical quantities. There are two balance. So what matters is like how would you intuitively explain the balance? So the intuition is very important here, actually. When you do a presentation, intuition is of paramount importance, whereas when you write a technical paper, though, probably you don't pay much attention to intuition, but you focus much on equation, actually, what the insights that you got from equation. But whenever you go for presentation, in contrast, though, what you want to do is you want to extract insights from the equations through your mathematical manipulations, so whatever you call it, and then you have to put them in the context and say that, look, this is intuitive. So if you increase this quantity by this amount, this quantity tend to decrease because of this phenomena. So you want to present something in a more credible fashion, actually. So this is one of the most important things when you do a presentation. So presentation itself is like a piece of visual arts. It's like a small, say 5 minutes video, 5 minutes presentation, maybe 5 minutes small documentary film probably. So you have to be a bit careful, because the thing is like you cannot put whatever you know into that presentation. Neither you don't want to put everything, nothing there. So you want to strike the correct balance when you are doing this kind of presentation. And most importantly, when it is short and sweet, in the first couple of minutes, say 1 or 2 minutes, so you want to attract the audience. So you have to be persuasive. Now, if you look at very famous films like, say, Gladiator, or I don't know, Schindler's List, or you go to any other film, actually, the preamble, the starting point of the film is like a very brutal war, or like some very action-packed incident, or you can see that the first 5 minutes or so, actually, audience is very captured by, completely attracted by the person, the producer, completely attracted, the director. He knows exactly to keep. So if you are successful in attracting the audience, though, then you can keep it. But if you are unsuccessful in attracting the audience at the beginning, though, it's highly likely that audience will lose interest and they will not pay attention to your presentation at all. So although the presentation is important to you, it's not other people's presentation, it's your part. So you want to make sure that other people feel in the same way like you feel. Okay, you feel this is important. Okay, I found something very interesting. This is important, but other people may or may not feel like that. So it's up to you to make sure that they also feel in the same way. So you have to be persuasive. So if you want to be persuasive, what do you want to use? You want to use your language ability. You want to use your language ability. Okay, so your language ability, you want to use effective language, proper wording, proper phrases, and proper timing. So these things are paramount importance, actually, because whenever somebody listens to you, in particular this situation, we had to record video, I suppose, but in reality, I mean, in normal days, you would have gone there and presented in person. In that case, actually, it's more challenging because you're in front of the audience and people are looking at you. You feel that people are looking at you, and they have to lively present. And then your language should be superb. And on the other hand, you can see my hand is moving. I can't stop doing it. The body language is very, very important, actually. So the English is very, very, very dynamic language. So you wanna make use of your expressions, your voice going pitch up, low, volume change, everything you have to use for one benefit, actually. The benefit for one purpose. The purpose is that to make sure that the message you wanna pass through, the message should be clear and not ambiguous. Clear and not ambiguous. Okay. So to this end, I gave so many points to these students. I mean, these points I learned through my mentors for my 13 or probably 17 to 18 years research career in many institutes. I work with many people, Sri Lankans, non-Sri Lankans, different native speakers and stuff like people like that. So through working with them, I got quite a lot of knowledge in these areas. So that's what I shared with these people. So as a rule of thumb, whatever the previous team and our team, they were discussing, actually, whatever it is, you want to make sure that presentation is fairly accessible to the audience. To make sure it is accessible, you have to simply cut down the number of words. You should not write complete sentences. You have to cut down the number of words because it's a visual aid. So when somebody, whenever you are speaking, so this is going to add constructively the pictures, whatever the phrases, the equations, the flow, the motion, everything should add constructively to your speech actually. So it's listen in conjunction with your voice track, the presentation. So you want to make sure that you get benefit from both worlds. So what I'm telling is, like, without going much details into our competition stuff, so you please feel free to go and check that video, 10 minutes video, I suppose, if I'm not wrong. Have a look at it. I still believe that video is pretty good quality. So because I've been listening to so many presentations by undergraduate final year projects and all sort of things for different universities, and I feel this video is pretty high class. So I think at that day, the event organizers or examination panel felt in the same way. Actually, that's pretty simple thing. So please feel free to visit. And I think this is pretty much what I want to tell you. I don't think I have anything to tell. And thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Pratap Singh and Dharmansha, for valuable insights. There is a small reminder for audience members. We will be closing registration for the 5-minute video competition on September 7th. So registration link will be posted in the chat box. There will be another workshop on financial signal processing by our sponsor. So we will inform about that in the upcoming weeks. We have arrived at the final quarters of the session. I would like to thank Dr. Chamira Edusuriya and Dr. Pratap Singh Dharmansha for sharing valuable insights with the audience. I also would like to thank team members for sharing their experience in the competition. This event won't be successful without the participation of the audience members. Thank you for participating in this event. If you have any questions or doubts about the international engineering competitions, you can contact us through our official email. Let's meet again for another session. Thank you. Good night.